Hi everyone, and welcome to another R tutorial video. In this tutorial I'm going to continue editing the NBA dataset that I was working with in the previous video. So let's dive right into it. I'm going to load the data and run the head function on the data to look at the first few lines. The next column I'm going to edit is that third field, the minutes played. Now notice that, let's take a look at that first record and then I'll explain what exactly this field means. Notice that first record under minutes played it has 29:24:00. 29 stands for 29 minutes, 24 stands for 24 seconds, and that last bit, it's just when I created this data set, there was sometimes there was this little bit extra piece of information, that :00, that really doesn't mean anything. So really the information that we really want to grab out of that field is those first two numbers, the 29:24. Now also notice that sometimes some of these records don't have that last bit at the end, that :00. For example, look at the fourth and fifth record, you'll notice that they have 21:33 and 16:45. So some of these records, we're going to have to do a little bit of cleaning up of these records before we really can convert this into a little bit more working form. So I'm going to start off with that, and I'm simply going to use a function that we've used before, the substring function. And of course, the colon is a character, so instead of grabbing 4 characters, I'll have to grab 5, which is what I'll do here. And just to make sure that we did everything right, I'm going to run the head function again, and I actually I already have it at line 3 above. And let's scroll up, and you can see that I've trimmed that minutes played column a little bit. Now to grab the what I would like to do is grab that. I'm going to use that first line as an example again. I want to grab that first number, convert it into minutes, into a number, and I want to take that second number and then convert that to a number as well. What's going to be easier is if I convert everything into seconds played, and then once I have seconds played, just take the whole answer, divide it by 60, and that's going to be minutes played. And the reason I'm going to do that is it's a little bit awkward to work with minutes and seconds. It's going to be much easier to convert everything to the same form, and that way I can add things together and subtract things together and not have to worry about, the fact that there's 60 seconds in a minute and keeping track of that throughout. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to convert this into minutes, and instead of having, have to worry about the seconds, I'm just going to convert that to like a fraction of a minute. For example, instead of carrying around the fact that somebody might have played 30 seconds, I'm just going to keep track of that as they played for 0.5 minutes. Okay, so the way that I can grab that is probably the easiest way is to use something called regular expressions. Now the reason that I can't simply just use the substring function is sometimes somebody only played for 8 minutes, as an example, and notice that if I tried to use the substring function and only grab those first 2 characters, sometimes I would grab 2 numbers, but sometimes I would grab a number and a colon, and that would cause an error in my when I try to convert that into a number. So I'm going to use something called regular expressions. Now I'm not going to really be able to explain what regular expressions are in this video. They're a very useful tool for working with text and extracting the information that you want. If you want to learn more about how regular expressions are used in R, just you do $, R-E-G-E-X, and you can see there's documentation there on the lower right hand corner. Something you should know about regular expressions: they are not unique to R. Many programming languages use regular expressions, so just something as a heads up. Regular expressions are very useful in other programming languages, and I don't want you to get confused to think that they're a feature unique to R. Many programming languages use it. Okay, so let me show you how I'm going to extract this information from this field. I'm going to create a field called seconds played, which I kind of mentioned my strategy before. Whoops, seconds played. and I'm going to have to add two things together. I'm going to have to calculate the minutes played and then the seconds played. But before I actually, I'm going to show you something real quick, just so that it'll be a little bit more clear about how the seconds played is calculated. I'm going to calculate this value here. Now first let me mention what this as numeric does. It'll take anything, it'll look at the input, and if it can convert it into a number, it will. As a quick example, let me scroll up one real quick here. As numeric, and let me put 1 in quotes. And it's really simple. When the variable appears in quotes like this, it's actually a string. It's actually not a number at this point. But then when I convert it to using as numeric, it converts it as into a number. And to kind of make it a little bit more clear on what I mean by that, I'm going to run line number 5 where I have class quotation 1 quotation. I'm going to run it. And you can see there in the output, it's a character variable. However, when I run the class function on this line number 6 where I use the as numeric, you can see that the variable type is numeric. So as numeric takes something that's a string and converts it to a number. So I think you're kind of seeing what my initial strategy is. I'm going to have to pull some information out, and I'm going to have to convert it into a number. So I have that as numeric function there. Then I have something called sub, sub function. This is going to substitute based on a regular expression that I input in. The regular expression I'm going to use is :dot star. As I mentioned, and unfortunately I'm not going to go into all the details on regular expressions. To be honest, that's a absolutely huge topic. But what this function is going to do is this regular expression is, notice that first character is a colon. It's going to look in my character string and find the colon, and that dot star. What that basically means is look at anything that happens to appear after the colon. So it's going to, as an example, let me use the head function again and look at that first entry. As an example of this minutes played, that very first entry, it's going to look and find :24 in this particular example. And that second line is going to look for and find :35. The next part of this substitute function is, well, what do I want to replace that with? I found :24, and what do I want to replace it with? In this special case, I actually don't want to replace. I want to replace it with a blank. I want to take it, find it, and remove it. So what it's going to do is, in the example of that first entry, is going to find :24, get rid of it, and the only thing going to be left behind is 29, which is going to be the number of minutes that I've played. And last part, I actually have to, I haven't noticed that I haven't told the function where to look yet, but actually what I'm going to do is, as I'm sure you guys realize by now, is I'm looking at the minutes played field. So let's run this and see what results we get. And notice that my output on the console is a bunch of numbers on here. Some of them are 2 digits, some of them are 1 digits, but they represent the number of minutes played. Also, what I'm going to have to do is, this is minutes played, but I'm going to create a seconds played field. I'll have to multiply this by 60, obviously. And then the last bit, and I'm going to write this on another line here, is I actually need the seconds played. To do the seconds played, and I'm going to actually steal a lot of what I already written here. The seconds played, I'm going to have to use a slightly different regular expression. And let's do... Whoops. And I'll explain what this regular expression is doing here in a minute. Okay. Everything is pretty much the same except my regular expression has changed. Notice that I have a square bracket, 0-9, right square bracket, then curly brace, 1, 2, right curly brace. What this regular expression says is, look for any character that is 0 through 9, basically any digit. Look for any digit, The next part where between the curly braces is look for any series of digits that is either length 1 or length 2. Recall in our minutes played, people either played for, in a basketball game, they never play for 100 minutes in a game. They always play for, either something between 0 minutes and typically up to in the 40s at the most. So I'm going to, for this field, I'm going to look for everything, any digits, either length 1 or 2, and also notice that last bit I have a colon there as well. So it's going to look for the colon, it's going to grab it as well. Same idea here. I'm going to find that string, I'm going to grab it, going to replace it with nothing, and in this case is actually, I don't have to multiply it by anything because that second number that appears after that colon, that actually does represent the seconds. So this is the expression that I have up here. And notice what I can do now is I'm just going to copy this, paste it down here, and now I've created a seconds played field. And let's do the head function, take a look at it again. And there we have on the right hand side, we have seconds.played. Last step of the process is I want to replace the old minutes played with this new value in the seconds played, but simply divided by 60. And let me just, I can copy this, save myself a little bit of typing. Run it. Head function to make sure we did everything right. Scroll up, and there we have it. We have everything converted. It's a numeric variable now, and now we have minutes as a fraction of everything. One last thing I'm going to do, this is going to be super quick. Notice at the end I have a third column there called games. When I originally created this data set, there was an extra variable thrown in there to try and keep track of the number of games everybody played. And I actually, when I extracted this data, I messed up creating that column. So the first one got created and nothing else got created after that. Now I'm going to fix that mistake. It'll be super quick. Each entry in this data set simply represents one player's stat line in a game. And if you think about it, if a person has a stat line in a game, they played in that game. So this is a really, really simple column. I'm just going to, it's just simply going to have a value of 1. I'm going to run it there. And this might seem a little bit silly to you. I'm going to run the head function again and see everything's 1 there. This might seem a little bit silly to have a column just of 1s. Well, if I start aggregating things and adding things together and I want to, see how many games a particular player played in the entire season, well, if I have this column here that's already created, it makes that a lot easier on me. So it seems a little bit silly at first to just have a column of 1s, but it's going to be, it might be convenient in certain analyses later on. I'm going to write my results here. It's going to be NBA version 001.csv. I've written the results, and this is the data set that I'm actually going to use next time. There might be a few, I have to look over the data set, there might be a few other changes that I might have to make, but I'm getting pretty close to ready to actually dig in and actually doing some real analysis on this data set. So I've gone through a lot of the data cleaning. I might need to do it next time, but we're getting really close to where we can actually really dig in and start exploring this data set a little bit more, which is, I think, is exciting because it's actually a real life example. So I'm going to end the video for here right now, and hopefully I'll see you guys next time in my next video. Bye.